Okay, this whole idea of the slope of a line, and it can be calculated, as you can see over here. We always say the change in y over the change in x, or say, for example, you are given 2 points, 0 and -2, and the point -6, -10. You can label these, and it doesn't matter which one you label point 1 and which one you label point 2. You just have to be consistent. If this is x1, then this has to be y1. If this is x2, then that has to be y2. And so from here, I can use my slope formula, which typically they'll use m for the slope. And I can take the difference, the change in the y values, so that would be -10 minus a -2, be careful with those negative signs, and then do the same with the change in the x's, so I would be -6 minus 0. And once again, you have to be sure that the order, you stay the same. So you can't do y2 minus y1 and then x1 minus x2 and so on. So if I work this out, I get a negative and a negative is a positive, and then -6, and so this looks like this would be -8 over -6, which a negative and a negative is a positive, and I could divide 2. Okay, so I just want to reduce this fraction, so I could divide 2 out of both parts. Remember, I did a negative and a negative is a positive, so that would give me 4/3. Now, if you actually took the time and graphed this, okay, meaning that graph these points. So if I graph the first point, point 0, -2 would be right there. So 0, -2. And then if I graphed -6, so that would be somewhere over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -6. And then, of course, you need to go all the way down to -10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I believe that's it. Close enough, probably, right? And then I put the point here, which is, once again, the point -6, -10. And if I can connect the dots, sometimes it's hard to do. When you miss the point, you know what you do? You just make the line thicker. Ha 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 ha. All right, and so I have, that is the line with those 2 points, and the slope of that line is a positive 4/3. I am emphasizing the positive because what if you had the points, let's do another example, of 3, 5, and 5, -1. All right, we do the same thing, the slope, -1 minus 5, so that's these values, and then 5 minus 3, so that looks like that would be -6 over 2, which would be a slope of -3. Let's see if we actually graph these values. So 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be right here, and then 5, -1 would be right here. What I want you to notice is when you have a positive slope, the line goes up. So as x increases, y increases. When you have a negative slope, as x increases, y is decreasing. So you might have, you could have lots of examples like, the more hours that you study, the higher your grade goes. That would be a positive slope. The negative slope could be something like the more hours you exercise, your weight comes down. So lots of examples to use with finding the slope. The other thing that I want to mention with slope, so let's look here. What if you had the points 4, -6, and -3, -6. So if I find this slope, once again, I take -6 minus -6 divided by -3 minus 4. Notice that negative and a negative is going to make a 0 up top. So that's a 0 slope. Well, again, if you actually plotted these points, so if I plotted 1, 2, -3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 6, put a point there. And then I plotted, I don't know why I did the negative 3, negative 6 first, but I did. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and negative 6. Notice what happens. A zero slope is a horizontal line. So that would be something like there's been no change, okay? Something stayed constant. But then if you had something such as negative 6, 4, and negative 6, negative 3, my slope would be negative 3 minus 4 over negative 6 minus negative 6. And now you cannot divide by 0, so this is actually an undefined slope. Okay, so this slope would be undefined. Again, I think it's always good to look at these graphically so they kind of sort of start to make sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 6, 1, up, 1, 2, 3, 4, so somewhere, say the point's up here, and then negative 6, negative 3. What's happening is now this is, so undefined slope is a vertical line. So I typically always graph and kind of see what they look like, but at least knowing the fact that if you have a positive slope, the line's going up, negative slope, the line's going down, zero slope, constant, no change, and then finally a vertical slope is where it's undefined.